No action was taken. I will now call to order the regular meeting of the Sierra Sands Unified School District Board of Education, and we will have the flag salute. And Dr. Houck, would you mind leading us in that?
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will now observe a moment of silence. Thank you. Adoption of the agenda. Any changes?
No changes, Mr. President.
Okay, then we will move to the approval of the minutes. If there are no changes, they will stand as presented, and move to reports and communications. Student members report. Do we have Madison? All
right. Hello, everybody. We're going to start with Monroe Middle School today. Can you guys hear me?
We can. Thank you.
Okay. Cool. Sorry, a little bit fuzzy. All right. So we'll start with Murray. ASB has kept the spirit going with sunglasses and 80 spirit days, and the fun with Friday Fun Days. Students can join ASB students and counselors during lunch on Fridays for fun, music, and games. It's February, which means Valentine's Day and Valentinegrams. Students can send a private, anonymous, or public shout-out Valentinegram to other students. 38 students were nominated for Student of the Month in January. Congratulations! Murray Mathletes completed in a virtual math counts competition, and we had 2 students advance in the competition when they took 4th and 8th in the county competition. Murray hosted a virtual rockets and robots assembly in February for students and their families, which was a hit. The students had great questions. All of the videos have been shared with the students so they can watch them, as well as links for the Mars rover landing later this week. And students participated in a virtual music clinic with Ensemble 4.1, sponsored by the Ridgecrest Chamber Music Society. They're excited that our cross-country team has started practicing using COVID plan safety measures to ensure students and staff are safe. The PBAS for Student Rewards Program awarded 141 prizes this month. Teachers have given out 46,104 points. 6th grade students have earned 20,873 points, 7th 12,221 points, and 8th 13,010 points. Our teachers are earning points as well to redeem for teacher awards. Keep up the hard work, Miss. Thanks. All right, and next we have Monroe. Academic interventions are back in full swing. Students had great growth based on the data from last semester, and already this semester one math teacher shared that she was able to continue that trend. She was able to work with another teacher during intervention, because every student in one class now has a C or better. With this intervention time, teachers are able to work more intensely with small groups of students on a bi-weekly basis. Students finding success are rewarded with an additional opportunity for positive social enrichment with counselors, the librarian, and their peers. Monroe's next big endeavor was on the 8th. The whole school participated in a swag day. For this first endeavor, every student was able to participate in the school-wide acknowledgement games, or swag. Students got to sign up for preferred activities. Classes were slightly shorter, and the last hour of school focused on students getting positively engaged with teachers and peers. During the future events, students who need additional support will get it, while others will be recognized for their continued positive engagement. The students in ASB are rolling out the next stage of student-led activity. The most recent endeavor was a bake-along. Students created and shared this playlist with the school and led the video presentation with little help from Mrs. Cosner. ASB also has February's Spirit Days planned, which include fun events like Valentine's Colors, Jersey Day, and even a Lego building competition. Last but not least, the joint cross-country team for the middle schools has resumed practice and will hopefully be able to compete soon. We even have a little space remaining for additional participants. All right, and now on to the high schools. Start with Mesquite. They say that we have had a successful month with 1 additional graduate, bringing our total to 6 so far this year. We continue to connect our students through monthly spirit days and events. Our yearbook and ASB students put on a school-wide community with a virtual scavenger hunt last week. Students participated in finding various items around their distance learning space and competed for a prize. Last week, we were fortunate to have another workshop with Community Matters for our student leaders. The workshop consisted of laying the groundwork for becoming a restorative practice campus. The staff has continued working with our consultant throughout this year. All right, and lastly, we have Burroughs. Burroughs has had a busy last few weeks and a packed schedule coming up. Juniors came on campus to take the PSAT in person on Tuesday, January 26th, and the results will be available on the College Board website beginning on March 8th. Next testing date is on March 13th, never mind, sorry. Okay, March 13th, that's right, when students will come on campus to take the SAT. On an exciting note, more students are on campus with some of our special ed classes returning, and ASB is holding a small King of Hearts and homecoming coronation on February 26th. It will be closed to the public, but the lovely ladies and gentlemen on the two courts will get a small celebration. Also, cross country gets to begin their season on February 24th, and they'll meet against Hesperia High School. ASB has been very busy maintaining school spirit with spirit days and challenges. Students have been able to participate in things like Split Hearts Day, where you wear sweatpants, Fandom Day, the Valentine's Baking Challenge, and the Super Bowl Spread Challenge. The winner of our future challenges now will get a $10 to $15 gift card. Yearbook asks for students to send in a picture of themselves for the yearbook picture by the 12th, and our school newspaper staff continues to maintain the online VHS blast. The WASC virtual visit is quickly approaching on March 8th through 10th, and thanks to the dedication of Ms. Susan Burgess, Ms. Callum Wilson, admin, and the many focus group meetings throughout the past few years, our WASC self-study was completed and submitted to the WASC chair. And last but not least, ASB would like to thank Mrs. Sween for her 17 years of outstanding service to Burroughs High School. We wish her a very happy retirement and will miss her dearly. Thank you.
Thank you, Madison. Now we'll have reports from members of the board. Chad?
I just wanted to thank staff for putting together the vehicle auction. Looked like it was very successful, and looks like we ended up with about triple the amount of money we probably would have going the other way. So, it took some time and effort from everybody. Just wanted to thank everybody that was involved.
I wanted to highlight what Madison was just talking about with the WASC process for Burroughs. I've been on one of the focus groups since the beginning, and I know, as I know Dr. Ostash and Mr. Ald, we've participated in many of them before. It takes an incredible amount of work. The document they put together is good. I've read at least my focus group's part of it. It's over a 100-page document that is well worth the read for everybody. That visit is the week of the 7th through the 10th. In fact, we have something as a board that evening. They shared that on the schedule in our meetings this week. So on that Sunday from 5 to 6, we're going to be part of that process. And then they share out, the visiting committee will share out their findings on the 10th of that week. So it's a very in-depth process. I'm glad I got to be a part of it. And I wanted to say thank you for all the hard work that they put on there at Burroughs.
Gentlemen, virtually, either of you have anything to add?
I just have a couple things.
Go ahead.
First of all, today we had a CSBA meeting, delegate assembly, like the county level. Good information shared about kind of the way forward to get the schools back open. Be interesting to see how we proceed from here. So good information, good working group among all the county school boards. That's all I have. Thanks.
Mr. Rockwell?
Nothing here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'd just like to tag on to what Mr. Johnson referred to. We did have our first regional-wide meeting of delegates and board members from all of Region 12, which for CSBA, which is Tulare and Kern County. I will say our district was the best represented of any. We had 3 members. Dr. Houck joined Mr. Johnson and myself. As Tim mentioned, a good discussion about some of the concerns of local districts, a specific focus on a couple of things that we could do, and that's the intent of this group and this organization is to provide grassroots efforts to provide both action and information flow to districts and from districts back out to leadership in the state. And one of the key elements that was focused on was trying to put pressure on the counties to move up the urgency of teachers and school staff members for vaccinations. Evidently, as it turns out, the state puts the categories together, but it's up to the counties to determine exactly which groups in those categories get priority. And so we're working on developing a statement that can be moved forward to put pressure on our county to kind of hasten that vaccination process for staff and teachers for schools. The other thing I would like to remark on is I just want to issue a voice of thanks and appreciation for what's happening in our district day by day as we try and find the way to get our kids back on our campuses so that we can meet the needs that have been going unmet in this horrific time. As everyone knows, the game and the rules change daily and momentarily, and it is a significant challenge to try and find the best way to meet those changes and those requirements and those restrictions and to move everybody back to a situation where we can give as much to our kids as they need. And I know it's taking a lot of effort on the parts of our leadership and our teachers and our staff, and I just want to, from the perspective of the board, give my word of appreciation and thanks for that effort. That moves us to Dr. Ostash.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. And I will, in my report, extend some remarks about where the district is in regards to planning and our priority for getting students back into the classroom for learning. Before I do that, I'll just issue a few important announcements that I thought would be of value for everyone. First, of course, we always talk about our enrollment. In month 5, our total enrollment was 4,886. Last year, this time was 5,128, and so we're year over year, we're down 242 currently. Another important aspect of district operations is, of course, the funding. And we're all aware that the federal government has been providing stimulus funds to schools for ensuring safety, protective equipment, practices, testing. Testing is not a cheap thing. We're doing a lot of testing of teachers and staff. But you might have heard the acronym ESSER. So we had the ESSER Round 1 and now ESSER Round 2. And ESSER is the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Funds. We received word from the California Department of Ed that for Sierra Sands, our preliminary allocation estimate is actually $5.9 million for ESSER 2 funds. And that, of course, is part of the broader, the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act. So $6 billion of the coronavirus, that CRRSA Act, $6 billion comes to California. About 5.9 million, almost 6 million of it comes to Sierra Sands. And of course, accompanied with that allocation were all the updated allowable uses. So we intend to put a workshop together for the board so we can describe in a discussion style some of the ideas and priorities that we think would be the best use of those funds for Sierra Sands to address current and future needs. One of the primary ways that we look to invest some of that money is with air quality in our schools and the opportunity of upgrading heating, ventilation, air systems, and ensuring all of the latest and greatest with the CO2 recognition, the fresh air, the MERV 13, the HEPA, all the different things that new products can do to ensure the safety of the air quality in our schools now, but in the future. So there are many ways that the federal government identifies how we are to use the funds, but one of them we know is an area, is an emphasis as air quality in our schools and our offices so that our students and staff are safe. As Dr. Houck mentioned, it is important, the 6-year full cycle, the self-study cycle for the Western Association of Schools and Colleges is occurring at Sherman E. Burroughs High School. And as you mentioned, March 7 through 10. And the only, I guess disappointing. It's pandemic, but typically that visit, it's usually a full visit of 7 visiting committee members. I believe it's a full virtual visit, so it'll be interesting to see. The visit is always rigorous and meaningful and very interactive, so it'll be interesting to see how the virtual setting of a visit with 7 visiting committee members, how that'll work. But we will, as always, we will engage enthusiastically in the process, and I'm looking forward. I know Burroughs High School faculty and staff have been working really hard, and it's a long road to get yourself positioned for a self-study, so this is very well appreciated. I also wanted to just highlight for the board and for the public that I don't know that I mentioned that upon a couple of retirements of superintendents in Kern County over the hill in Bakersfield, I was honored to be appointed to 2 of the 3 self-insured schools of California board of directors. There are 3 groups in CISC. The first one is workers' comp, the second one's property and liability, and the third one is health and welfare. And so I was appointed to serve as a voting member on one of the boards, which is the CISC 1, workers' comp, and then I'm an alternate, so I only am a voting member if the primary director is not able to be present, and that's for the property and liability. So it's nice to have representation of Sierra Sands on that, at this point, statewide JPA, Joint Power Agreement. Mr. Scott mentioned the Sierra Sands local auction. In the past, we have lots of different ways in which we surplus district assets, and in many cases, we go to vendors and such, and the question has been raised at times as, are there other ways we could do it? Are there ways we could benefit the local community? Could we perhaps recover more money, et cetera, et cetera? And in many cases, we analyze it in such a way that it would not be the best use of district staff time to do a local auction. In this particular case, we analyzed it carefully. I'd like to acknowledge Ms. Smith and her staff in the business office. Also, we have 2 great mechanics in our own district garage who were influential or instrumental in making sure all these vehicles were prepared. We had 15 district vehicles, all of which sold successfully in this local auction, and we recovered almost $22,000 in revenue from it. And I thought it went extremely well, and we definitely recovered a lot more money than we would have through a vendor, and equally or maybe more important through that is then we had local people who could benefit from buying these local district assets. So that was good. Lastly, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this, is top of mind for everyone in every public school district in the nation, which is how to meet the needs of our students and obviously maintain safety for all involved, faculty and staff and admin and students, but understanding, working through, navigating through the process and identifying when and where in a pandemic that the science and the circumstances and the transmission rates and also the evolution and success of a district putting together the safety plan and marshaling and assembling all of the safety protocols and practices where it is then reasonable and sensible and responsible to get students back in the classroom, and to understand that risk management and to understand what's best for students and to do all of that within a context of safety and appropriateness. And so the latest development in our state is that as of February 16, the adjusted infection rate is 26.8 per 100,000, and that's a very important number to understand because the trend has been going in the right direction. We all know that in the wintertime, as we went through holidays and the holiday season and even the turn of the calendar year, the trend had gone up, and it was alarming, and the infection rate was increasing up into the triple digit. I think at one point, I think it went over 100, if not over close to 100 per 100,000. Well, now it's trending down, and it's anticipated, based upon trend analysis, it's anticipated that next week will be below the 25 per 100,000. That will be a very important time because if that gets affirmed and that 5 successive days pass and it stays under 25, then we're hopeful that our county can move into that different color tier, and it just changes all of our options. But On January 14th, a new framework was released, which basically offered to school districts the ability to choose whether or not they wanted to submit a review by the state. It's actually specifically called the COVID-19 Specific Safety Review Request for Schools. And we elected to immediately remit our request for us to be reviewed so that we could continue to open, irrespective of the purple tier circumstance. Irrespective of that, you can, through, and I'm not going to enumerate all of the different requirements, but we have successfully in this district assembled all the required safety documents, safety plan, COVID prevention plan, schedules, ingress, egress, social distancing, transportation. We have been able to do that. And there are just a couple of remaining things that need to be put in place, one of which is agreements with our labor group organizations, and we're working through that process. But we submitted that review. We've already heard back from the state that they're going to hear our review, and so we have 7 days to then actually remit the formal documentation that they've requested for them to then review and then hopefully, fingers crossed, accept our review and basically give us the green light to move forward to begin reopening our schools. I want to highlight that, yes, the state highly recommends vaccination. I think many people recommend vaccination, but it's important to note from CDC and from Dr. Fauci and from state organization that it's understood that public educators are not required to receive the vaccine as a condition for employment or as a requirement to return to in-person instruction. And we know the rollout of these vaccines throughout the state and certainly within our county has not been done in the way that we would have anticipated or preferred, I'm sure. And so that's been disappointing for most people, and we're certainly disappointed in the district, and we're hopeful that it would have been more expedient. But we are in daily contact with our local resources and our county resources, and we're being assured that just as soon as there are vaccines available, that we will have special consideration and deployment, and we may even be able to work out on one or more of our sites or departments even being able to administer vaccines within the district. So we're working really hard on that. I don't have anything formal to declare on that because we just don't, but we are in great communication with the county. And I want to identify that we in the district agree with and concur with the state priority. The current tiered structure is that the return to in-person instruction prioritizes elementary age students. In fact, the governor's proposal specifically targets grades TK through 6, if you have 6th grade in elementary, or TK through 5. And so the district and leaders of the Desert Area Teachers Association have been negotiating very diligently to work towards an agreement in order to return to in-person instruction as soon as possible this school year. The district transmitted a plan last month that would include TK through 2nd grades initially for in-person learning 5 days per week. We also recognize that some families will prefer to remain in distance learning, certainly through the rest of this year. And I want to assure that families who make that choice and have that preference, that will be honored, and any student or any family whose student wants to remain in distance learning will be accommodated for sure this year. I also want to acknowledge that as we move through the process and we do find our way and move back in in-person instruction, we recognize that it is very likely that some students will experience a change of teacher. And during regular times, we probably wouldn't consider any changes that would have any kind of wholesale change in student rosters. And that would be in normal times, but we're not in normal times. And so as extremely disruptive as pandemic has been and causing us to go into distance learning, there will most definitely be disruption and challenges as we move back to our new normal. But it's really important that there's no paralysis and that we don't get stuck in too many of preferences that we are rooted in normal times, because we're not normal times and we can't be paralyzed. We've got to get students back in the classroom. So I just want to acknowledge that there will be some pain and some change and disruption moving back into in-person, but it's really important that we get back to in-person. And I want to close by just saying that it's always been our most important work to serve students, that school districts don't per se exist to be employers. We exist to develop our community's youth, to develop them academically and socially and emotionally and civically. And it does just so happen that it takes really outstanding teachers and support staff to ensure that development. And so that's where we make that commitment to all sides of the spectrum, that we'll do this, we'll do it safely and respectfully and sensibly. And the most important focus for the district, for Sierra Sands right now, is to return students safely and intentionally back to the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Astash. That brings us to item 5.4, reports to the Board of Trustees by the Desert Area Teachers Association.
Hello, President Ferris, Superintendent Ostash, board members, community, staff. I usually come up here a little more organized. I was it 4.5 hours yesterday negotiating, and that's on top of, a full day of Zoom, getting my students engaged, grading, lesson planning, wrestling with Canvas, still putting assignments, my normal assignments into a format for Zoom. So it's been busy, and I'm feeling a little bit scattered, but I do want to address you. I did notice Dr. Ostash talked about our schedules being disrupted when there's a return to school, and certainly there will be some disruption, but there are other options to keep our students with the teachers, and that's a really important thing for teachers. As we talk about going back, is to keep that bond that they have with their students. It's something that we've managed to do even through Zoom. We still have those moments. The moments of joy are fewer now for all of us because we're not in the classroom, but they still happen. And we still feel that connection to our kids, whether it's, 5 classes every day on Zoom or the one all day long. And that's important to us, to have that bond and to build on it. And as we're looking at a return to the classroom, and we talk a lot in this district about extending grace, I really hope that grace is extended where it should be, which is when we have those kids back in the classroom and we have teachers back in the classroom, and I'm not even going to talk about all the safety issues right now. We need to be focused on the emotional well-being of our kids. Because we're human and we care about them. But in another way, because if we want them to excel at school, at life, we need them happy and comfortable. We haven't been in school, we haven't been in the classroom since last year in March, right? So when those kids come back, we need to let their teachers, the ones who know them, the ones who are there every single day connecting with them, we need to let them do what they know how to do, and that's teach. So that steady drumbeat, that relentless drumbeat of testing, that's not going to cut it when those kids are back. There's going to be enough pressure on them not being able to get up and get their snacks, not being able to go to the bathroom when they want. I really hope that all of us here, all of us adults, recognize what's in the best interest of those kids, and that's them adjusting again to being in the classroom, to feeling comfortable, to feeling confident, and putting undue pressure on them for something like a state test after the year that they've endured is wrong-headed to think that that's going to work. So I trust in the process of being safe and getting our kids back, and I believe that all of us here share the goal of making sure our kids are healthy and happy, and I hope that how we get them there is, I hope we share that too, and I hope that the professionalism of Sierra Sands teachers is recognized and honored. as we bring those kids back.
Thank you. Brings us to 5.5, report to the Board of Trustees by the California School Employees Association. Do we have a representative tonight? Seeing none, it brings us to communications from the public. The board will provide time during the discussion of each agenda item for members of the public to comment. At this time, members of the public may address the board on items that are not on the agenda. Comments should relate to items of public interest within the board's jurisdiction. The law prohibits the board from taking action on items that are not on the agenda. If appropriate, your comments will be referred to staff for response. When addressing the board, please state your name and address at the podium and limit your remarks to 3 minutes. In accordance with the board bylaws, the board will limit the total time of public input to 30 minutes. Those wishing to address the board beyond that 30-minute time period may do so at the end of the scheduled meeting agenda.
Good evening. I'm a little nervous, so just bear with me. My name is Tammy Jones. I live in 756 West Springer in Ridgecrest. I'm a 1982 Burroughs graduate. I have lived in the school district for over 40 years. My children have gone through the school district, and I'm here tonight as a grandparent.
Can we ask you to speak more directly into the microphone?
Sure.
We can't do in TV land.
Absolutely. Sorry about that. I'm here tonight as a grandparent of a third grader in this school district. I felt I must do this when my grandson had a major meltdown over the online teaching method. I personally watch him struggle every day with this asinine method of teaching. I've also been told by several other parents and grandparents that their children have had meltdowns and have just checked out with this learning method. I have extreme concerns for our children's safety, and when I speak of safety, I'm not just referring to virus safety. I'm speaking also about mental safety, academic safety, intellect safety, and in some cases, physical safety. This pandemic has exacerbated mental health issues among the age cohort already vulnerable. According to the Center for Disease Control, CDC data, suicide is the second leading cause of death among young people aged 10 to 24. The effects of isolation are heightening this trend. The closures of schools and other social activities such as sports, clubs, etc., that students usually have as part of their lives increases the rate of anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts for people of this age group. A substantial uptick in student suicides has prompted the nation's 5th largest school district to bring children back to the classroom, despite the number of Chinese virus cases. I am speaking of the Clark County School District, which serves as Las Vegas and surrounding cities in Nevada. There has been 18 suicides amongst its student bodies between March and December last year. That number is 2 times the amount recorded in all of 2019. This is hitting too close to home for me, and it should be for all of you as well, including the teachers union. I'm sure there is other districts experiencing these tragedies. The survival rate for the Chinese virus, as per CDC, is as follows: 0 to 19 years, 99.997%; 20 to 49, 99.98%; 50 to 69, 99.5%; and 70 plus, 94.6%. As well as we know that this virus is not easily transmitted by children. Suicide, on the other hand, has a 0% survival rate. When we look at the disadvantages and hurdles with the academic safety, those most vulnerable who would have been struggling in a natural, normal classroom setting, those in the cracks, are forever lost. You have changed their destiny in the wrong direction, when in the near past you would have changed their destiny in the right direction. This is shameful. In our family, we may fall and have to try over, but we press on until we succeed, and we don't fail. If my child or grandchild fails, then I have failed. I would hope you all would have the same mindset. If one child fails in this district, then you have all failed.
Your time is up. If you could, we appreciate your response. Could you finish up, please?
Yeah, I'm just about done. You
your
got 30 minutes for people to talk, and there's maybe 2 or 3 other people that will talk. I know it's not fair.
The time limit is 3 minutes each. I've let you go over your time limit. If
Thank
you could
you.
wrap up quickly, please, I'd appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay. Now you made me lose my spot. American school boards should be ashamed of themselves for not having a backbone with teachers' unions and other government officials. These groups will continue to rule the classroom with policies and curriculum as long as we allow it. We are doing an injustice to our most precious resources, our children. It is disgusting to watch and should be criminal. You're putting the interests of government and unions over our children and families. As it takes courage and guts to
Thank
be
you,
here
ma'am.
tonight.
I've allowed you to wrap up. I
Okay.
appreciate your comment.
I'm sorry.
I know it's important. We all know it's important, but we do have specific structures for a reason.
All right,
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your opportunity.
You bet.
I hope God gives you the wisdom to make the right decisions.
Thank you, as do I. Are there others?
Good evening. Good evening, board members, ladies and gentlemen, members of the public. My name is Jessica Fine. I live at 762 East Franklin in Ridgecrest. I am a lifetime resident of Ridgecrest. I am a wife and a mother, and I'm also a mental health professional, and I currently work with children and their families under the College Community Services Mental Health Facility. I am standing here today to voice my concerns that I have for the future of the children of this valley. It is in my opinion that the children in this valley need to get back to the sense of normalcy, and that needs to be in the school setting. I am aware of the tiers in which the school is working with to get the children back to school, and I believe that there needs to be a better way. We are in unprecedented times, as Dr. said earlier. Your next decisions need to have an understanding that children need to come first. I want to make it clear that I have the utmost respect for teachers. I was once one, working for the Sierra Sands School District in 2005 to 2006. I had the pleasure of working as a 10th grade special day class teacher, and I enjoyed every moment of it. I appreciate all that they do for the children of this valley, but right now, we are not living in normal. There must be a way where people can come together on a common ground and put the children first. That includes the boards and the teachers' union. I know from firsthand that children are suffering and falling further and further behind. Through my job and as a mother of a junior high student, I have seen the effects of isolation and distance learning. Distance learning and socialization for these children have caused children to have increased symptoms of depression, anxiety, and other behavioral problems that wouldn't be present if not for this pandemic. I have seen children who succeed in school in the past, that get A's, that are confident in their school academics, drop to complete F's and become a failing student. I have witnessed children give up and say, "Why should I do school? I don't even understand what they're trying to teach me over this stupid computer." Unquote. I have seen happy children wonder what they are living for with not being able to reach out to a friend, a teacher, or even just getting away from a toxic home situation. And I see this on a daily basis in my job. And I'm standing here because there are parents that won't. As of Tuesday this week, my husband and I made a very difficult decision to pull our son from Sierra Sands School District and put him in St. Anne's, where he is now thriving, and he comes home every day with a smile on his face instead of tears from last week. In conclusion, I want to add that I'm not a professional when it comes to ins and outs of the school board administration or the teachers union, but what I do know and what I have witnessed in the mental health of these children in this valley, and I'm a professional at that. I urge you board members, administration, and teachers union to come together to find a way to return these children, and I do mean all children, back into the classroom where they can thrive and begin to have some sense of normalcy and proper education. There has to be a way. There must be a way. Let's make the changes needed. Let's sacrifice what we must, and let's get these kids back where they belong, in the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others? Thank you so much for your important comments. That brings us to Educational Administration, 6.1. Mrs. Decker, approval of agreements for compensation and intermediate Orton Gilliam Professional Development and the Institute for Multisensory Education.
Good evening, President Ferris, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Ostash, staff and community. The Institute for Multisensory Education, or IMSE, training provides educators with the skills needed to integrate research-based, explicit, systematic, and multisensory language arts instruction into their current curriculum. The IMSE Orton Gillingham program educates teachers and paraprofessionals on how to explicitly and effectively teach reading. This is effective in classrooms because it allows teachers and paraprofessionals to teach children in the way each individual child learns best. In the last 3 years, we have trained over 60 elementary teachers in Orton Gillingham. The March 2021 comprehensive training for K through 2nd grade contract and the April 2021 3rd through 5th grade intermediate training quote will allow us to train 24 teachers and 14 paraprofessionals virtually in a 30-hour training that is hands-on, interactive, and personalized for the teachers and paraprofessionals, that provides a complete understanding of the Orton Gillingham method and the tools necessary to apply it in the classroom. The intermediate agreement is tailored for upper elementary teachers, special education teachers, and paraprofessionals, focusing on the importance of a structured literacy program. The Institute for Multisensory Education agreements are $29,830 for the K through 2nd grade comprehensive training and $14,830 for the 3rd through 5th grade intermediate training, for a total of $44,660, and it will be funded through the district's Title I allocation. It is recommended that the Board of Education authorize the Orton Gillingham agreements with IMSE as presented.
Move the recommended action.
Move recommended action.
Action has been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments by board members? Any questions or comments by staff or community? In that case, we will call for the vote. Dr. Houck?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson? Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Thank you. Vice President Rockwell?
Aye.
Mr. Scott?
Aye.
Myself, aye. It passes unanimously. That brings us to item 6.2, approval of amendments to attention to attendance, software and services agreement. Mrs. Decker.
Okay. School Innovations and Achievement, or SIA, offers programs and products tailored to meet the increased accountability metrics in the California School Dashboard. As a result of ongoing analysis of attendance and chronic absenteeism trends in the district, chronic absenteeism is an identified area of need in improving graduation rates and dropout prevention. The district entered into a 3-year services agreement in 2018 with SIA's Attention to Attendance program to improve attendance rates and reduce chronic absenteeism rates. According to the 2018 California Dashboard, the percentage of students in kindergarten through 8th grade who were absent 10% or more of the instructional days they were enrolled was 11.5%. In 2019, that rate dropped to 9.7%, chronically absent, which is a 1.8% decline. This demonstrates an overall district improvement and indicates that our A2A campaign has been effective. Sierra Sands would like to continue contracting with SIA's Attention to Attendance program to continue improving attendance rates and reducing chronic absenteeism rates. The amendment includes additional notification options to email or text parents or guardians concerning attendance letters and scheduled conferences. It also includes an additional 3 years to the agreement, including years 21-22, 22-23, and 23-24. The annual fee is $32,400, and the additional 3-year agreement is $90,400. The service agreement will be funded through the district's Title IV allocation. It is recommended that the Board of Education authorize the district to amend the service agreement with school innovations and achievement or attention to attendance as presented.
Move the recommended action.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded twice. Any questions from board members? Any questions or comments from public or staff? If not, we'll move right to the vote. Dr. Houck?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Vice President Rockwell?
Aye.
Mr. Scott?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Passes unanimously. Moved us to item 3, approval of revisions of the CTE Health Careers course of study at Burroughs High School to align to CTE model content standards and program requirements.
College and career readiness is the foundation of California's new accountability system. The Career Technical Education Model Curriculum Standards were revised in January 2013 to align to new accountability requirements and are designed to assist California districts and schools in developing high-quality curriculum and instruction to help ensure that students are career and college ready. In December 2015, the district began applying for and received Career Technical Education Incentive Grants. The allocations received to date total $1,081,946.81. The purpose of the funding is to assist districts with the transition to the CTE model content standards and local control funding requirements, and to develop, implement, and sustain high-quality career technical education programs that are based around the 12 CTE essential elements. CTE elements number 1 and number 5 state, student-centered delivery of services for all K-14+ college and career pathways incorporate the removal of institutional or systemic barriers that impede the progress of students in achieving their education and career goals. This includes a renewed commitment to offer an engaging learning experience and support the diversity of individual student needs while accommodating their multiple entry points as they progress along a continuum of education and training or advance in a sector-specific occupation or industry. High-quality integrated curriculum and instruction informed by labor market information, student interest, technology, industry standards, and real-world engagement through relevant work-based learning opportunities is essential to prepare students. Rigorous and aligned programs should be supported to guide students through relevant course sequences, i.e. both in-person and online, and work-based learning opportunities leading to a mastery of standards, high school graduation, and transition to post-secondary education, training, apprenticeship, and/or employment as appropriate. Courses and programs may be designed to use cross-system strategies like dual enrollment and/or dual credit with community colleges and universities or other articulations to create a seamless student experience and avoid unnecessary repeating of courses or other inefficient practices to facilitate on-time post-secondary graduation where appropriate. Stackable badging and credentials can ensure frequency of assessment and a value-added outcome. The Patient Care Pathway course outline revisions resulted in the development of 2 new course outlines, the Health Careers 1, which is Semester 1, and Health Careers 2, which is Semester 2. Alignment of CTE course outlines is a compliance requirement for Perkins and CTIC and must be completed by the end of the 2021 school year. At this time, there are no financial considerations, but there could be additional costs for the proposed textbooks, the language of medicine and medical law, ethics and bioethics for the health professions, pending recommendation and approval by the District Instructional Materials Review Committee this spring. The cost of the textbooks would be funded by CTIC. It is recommended that the board approve the revisions to the CTE Patient Care Pathway course outlines as presented.
Move recommended action.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments by board members? Any questions or comments by public or staff? Then we will move to the vote. Dr. Houck?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Vice President Rockwell?
Aye.
Mr. Scott?
Aye.
Myself, aye. It is once again unanimous. Brings us to item 4, approval of revisions to the CTE Restaurant Careers course of study at Burroughs High School to align with the CTE model content standards and program requirements.
Okay. The background is the same, and the current considerations are the same. I will skip down to the bottom since we're doing 3 pathways tonight. The food service and hospitality pathway course outline revisions resulted in the development of 2 new course outlines, Restaurant Careers 1, which is Semester 1, and Restaurant Careers 2, Semester 2. Alignment of the CTE course outlines is a compliance requirement for Perkins and CTIG and must be completed by the end of this year. At this time, again, there are no financial considerations, but there could be additional costs for a proposed textbook called Culinary Essentials, pending recommendation and approval by the District Instructional Materials Review Committee this spring, and the cost of the textbooks would also be funded through CTIG. It is recommended that the board approve the revisions to the CTE Food Service and Hospitality Path course outlines as presented.
Move the recommended action.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions by board members? Any questions or comments by staff?
Yeah, I've got one.
Go ahead.
Well, I apologize for not asking this on the last one, but we mentioned that there may be additional costs based on these additional textbooks. Do we have estimates for what that looks like?
As far as the cost?
Yes.
Not yet, because it will depend on how many textbooks they need. And we have a brand new grant from CTIG that we were just awarded that is over $200,000. So we have plenty of funds to pay for the textbooks.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Questions or comments from members of the public or staff? If not, we'll move to the vote. Dr. Houck?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Vice President Rockwell?
Aye.
Michael Scott?
Aye.
Myself, aye. That's unanimous again. We will move to item 5, which is...
Okay, item 5 is the last pathway, and it's the Systems Diagnostic Service and Repair Pathway. And this one was also revised, and it resulted in the 2 courses, Automotive Mechanics 1, which is Semester 1, and Automotive Mechanics 2, Semester 2. Still a compliance item. And again, they are wanting to look at new textbooks to update, obviously, to current editions. And so those will also be funded by CTIG. It is recommended that the board approve the revisions to the CTE Systems Diagnostic Service and Repair Pathway course outlines as presented.
Move recommended action.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions, comments by board members? Any questions or comments by members of the public or staff? If not, we'll move to the vote. Dr. Houck?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Vice President Rockwell?
Aye.
Mr. Scott?
Aye.
Myself, aye. It is once again unanimous. That moves us down to personnel administration.
Move 8185.
Second.
Items 8.1 through 8.5 have been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments by board members on those items? Any questions or comments by staff and community on those items? Then we will vote on those as a block. Dr. Houck?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Vice President Rockwell?
Aye.
Mr. Scott?
Aye.
Myself, aye. It is unanimous. That brings us to item 6, approval of Memorandum of Understanding with the Desert Area Teachers Association titled Families First Coronavirus Response Act. Mr. Auld.
President Ferris, members of the board, Superintendent Ostash, staff, and community. The next 3 items actually represent agreements with each of the 3 bargaining units regarding the coronavirus leave provisions. The background information, the FFCRA was a new category of leave entitled under FMLA, specifically related to COVID-19. The extended leave was enacted on April 2nd, 2020, and expired on December 31st, 2020. This new category of leave entitlement was not extended as a part of the end-of-the-year stimulus package, and therefore is no longer specifically provided for under the law. However, Congress did include language authorizing employers to extend the FFCR leave. The district continues to enforce all COVID-19 guidance from the California Department of Public Health, which includes excluding employees from reporting to work if they test positive for COVID-19 or if they have had a direct exposure to someone who has tested positive. In those circumstances, the employee is required to take leave. As such, the district feels compelled to extend the FFCRA leave for eligible SSUSD employees until June 30, 2021. Financial implications are unknown since it will depend on two factors. First, how many employees will need to use the FFCRA leave, and two, whether or not they require a substitute. Regardless, any amount will be minimal and paid for through the new stimulus bill funding. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve the memorandum of understanding with the Desert Area Teachers Association titled Families First Coronavirus Response Act as presented.
We have a recommended action.
We recommend action.
Second.
Okay, I think we got that handled, moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from board members? Questions or comments from members of the public or staff? If not, we'll move directly to the vote. Dr. Houck?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Vice President Rockwell?
Aye.
Mr. Scott?
Aye.
Myself, aye. It makes it unanimous. Moves to item 7. We count 6 and 7 next, right? Approval of Memorandum of Understanding with the Desert Area Guidance Association titled Family First Coronavirus Response Act.
It's the exact same information. Happy to.
We recommended action.
Might I recommend we do 7 and 8 together since they are basically the same? Do I have an amended motion? Can I have an amended motion to do 7 and 8 together?
Yes, move recommend.
Yes, I amend it to 7 and 8.
Second.
Any discussion, questions?
I'll amend that motion. Second.
Any questions or comments by staff or community? Hearing none, we'll move to the vote. Dr. Houck?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Vice President Rockwell?
Aye.
Mr. Scott?
Aye.
Myself, aye. It's unanimous, both 7 and 8. That moves us to General Administration, Gifts to the District. Vice President Rockwell. Did we lose you?
Nope, I just need to get my computer working in both places at one time.
Oh, you're changing from the cartoons to the...
Yeah, something like that. All right. The following gifts were received. Beverage donated 10 gift cards with a total value of $15, and Pizza Factory donated 100 gift cards with a total value of $1,100. Both gifts are to be used for PBIS rewards at Murray Middle School. Donations provide support to the district and have a positive financial impact. I move that we accept the gifts as described and send appropriate letters of appreciation.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any comments? If not, the vote. Dr. Houck?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Vice President Rockwell?
Aye.
Mr. Scott?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Makes it unanimous. Brings us to item 2, adoption of the Sierra Sands Unified School District Governance Handbook.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. As we all know, the school board members are locally elected, and they are public officials who are entrusted with governing a community's public schools. And one of the greatest ways we can see our board perform at the highest level and to reach those goals for our public school district is to establish governance standards that are agreed upon and mutually valued by the board, because there are a lot of responsibilities that the board has. So I was really honored to work in a workshop style with the board in January. In fact, it was on January 13 when we discussed, put forth a lot of effort into pulling together the resources that have been built over the years Prior to my involvement as superintendent, I know that the board received Masters in Governance training through CSBA and put in motion at that time the opportunity to collectively decide on values and governance standards. So we put together a district governance handbook that is attached here, and it will serve as guidance and support for current and future board members, which will be really great for continuity for the future. There are no financial implications, and I will say that the nice thing about this is that it creates a nice springboard for continued and regular review and for current or future board members to make further impact to this governance handbook. I recommend that the board adopt the Sierra Sands Unified School District Governance Handbook as presented.
Move the recommended action.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions by board members?
Just real
Dr.
quick, as the new guy on here, it was very helpful to have this come about right as I was starting. I think it's a strong document anytime there are new board members that come on. As part of the organization focus group for the Burroughs WASC, I know it's always hard to answer the questions for the visiting committee. This document actually answers one of those questions, and had this document been around earlier, it's something that I'm sure would be in that WASC packet, and some of the visiting committee members would take back to their own boards to say, hey, why don't you have this? So thank you for doing it. I think that it's a good thing that will only serve us positively moving forward.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments, board members?
Just a quick one. The entire board went through the Masters in Governance program through CSBA a couple of years ago, and this was one of the topics of discussion. And I think at that time it really resonated with us that it was a good thing to do. And I want to thank Dr. Ostash and my fellow board members for making it happen. And this great document that'll help us for years to come. So good job all.
Any other questions or comments? I would just like to add that I do believe it's a valuable document, and I think I feel very proud of our board over the years that the way we have developed a manner of dealing with issues and an understanding of the appropriate role of the board. And I believe it's very helpful and healthy for us as an organization to document that in a way so that as new people come on, because over time it is an eventuality, that culture is maintained and that understanding is maintained in a very positive way. So I really appreciate the fact we're doing this. I do think there are a couple of things that we may want to over time refine. And I believe that had we been in a different time, we may have already worked on those things in this specific document, but I believe with resources being stressed to the degree they are with the times we're in, I believe this is a really good start and puts us in a good standing. Any other comments or questions by anyone else? If not, we will have the vote. Dr. Houck?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Vice President Rockwell?
Aye.
Mr. Scott?
Aye.
Myself, aye. That makes it unanimous. Moves us to item 3, California School Boards Association Delegate Assembly Election.
Okay. The CSBA, yes, Mr. Ferris. The CSBA Delegate Assembly is the primary policy-making body of the California School Boards Association. It sets the general policy direction for the association that represents California's school districts and county offices of education. Delegates fulfill a critical governance role by communicating the interests of local boards to CSBA's Board of Directors, Executive Committee, and staff. Delegates give policy and legislative direction through the adoption of the policy platform every 2 years and the adoption of the other policy statements of the association. They also speak on issues and provide direct advocacy on behalf of the association. Delegates play an important communication and support role within their regions, and they also elect the association's officers and board of directors. Elections are conducted annually to fill vacancies on the CSBA Delegate Assembly. Elections are conducted by region. Sierra Sands is in a part of subregion 12B. Currently, Sierra Sands board member Tim Johnson serves on the Delegate Assembly. Board President Bill Ferris serves as CSBA Director Regional Director, Region 12. There are 5 vacancies in Subregion 12B of the CSBA Delegate Assembly for which there are 5 candidates. The candidates are Pam Bauer from Bakersfield City School District, our own Tim Johnson here from Sierra Sands Unified School District, and David Manriquez from Kern High School District, who subsequently was withdrawn from the election and will serve as an appointed delegate to Kern High School District, and Jerry Rivera from Arvin Union School District, and Keith Woolridge from Panama Buena Vista Union School District. There are brief biographical sketches from the candidates that are included for review. There are no financial implications, and the board may vote for up to 5 candidates. No more than 1 vote can be cast for any one candidate.
I move that we cast 1 vote for Tim Johnson. That would be my normal approach at this point, but might be nice if we're, trying to, since there's 5 people for 5 spots, we could put 1 vote in for each. I don't know. I'm curious what other people are thinking.
I would second that.
There's 4 people for 5 spots, and we can vote for all of them, right?
Yeah, Dr. Ostash, the way I read it is David out?
So, so what happened is there was a misunderstanding. Kern High School gets a designated delegate, and they were changing their designated delegate. When they notified CSB of that, it was understood that they were nominating him. So he subsequently withdrew. So there are actually...
There's only four really on the ballot, I guess you'd call it. So then we have 5 vacancies. So it makes sense to vote, give each one of those 4 members a vote.
Yes. And it was, so you said either or, Mr. Rockwell, and then Mike seconded that. So would you like to specify which of those 2 you were making the motion on?
Well, yeah, I guess that was my question was, I'm just curious what other people thought.
My own opinion, based on...
I have an opinion.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Johnson.
I mean, what I was going to say is all 4 of the delegates are very involved with the CSBA, and I would be honored that if we would vote for all 4 of them and show our support.
Any other comments on that? I would support what Mr. Johnson said. I believe they put themselves out there, they participated strongly, and it would be appropriate for us to support that.
So I would say to clarify my motion, then I think we should vote for each of the candidates.
Okay, and
Second.
That's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Before we vote, I would like to make a comment. I can remember a time in this district when this document came to us each year, and we would not vote because we had no knowledge of any of the other people running and no involvement in the association whatsoever. And that has transitioned to a place where we not only know all the people involved, we also have a member of our board running. And I think that speaks well to how involved and how committed the members of this board are and in service of our students and our community. It's been tremendous growth, and I'm honored to be a part of this group and that, because of that kind of activity. Any other questions or comments? Any questions or comments by the public or staff? And we'll go to the vote. Dr. Houck?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Vice President Rockwell?
Aye.
Mr. Scott?
Aye.
Myself, aye. It is unanimous. That moves us to item 4, adoption of the 2021-22 academic calendar. Dr. Ostash. It lags, doesn't it? Want to try the next one?
Here we go. Okay. Let's see. The District Calendar Committee meets annually to develop recommendations to staff and submit an academic calendar for board approval. Committee members represent data, CSEA, DAGA, management, as well as elementary, middle, and high school grade spans. Academic calendars provide the following information to staff, students, parents, and community members, the number of instructional days, holidays, minimum days, and in-service days. I do want to say I'm glad this is here. I feel badly. I apologize to the community. I know there are many agencies who understand the importance of this calendar and work, in many cases, their own calendars around ours. And due to the disruption and significant changes we had to make, honestly, it delayed our ability to get here. And so I'm glad we're here and we're in a good spot, but I do apologize to agencies in town because our past practice has been to be, in some cases, 2 years ahead of cycle. So just letting everyone know, we know we've been pinched on this and we're going to catch up. So anyways, the academic calendar for the 2021 and 2022 school year is a very similar reflection of traditional calendars that have been typically implemented in the past. There are some differences. The committee created 2 calendar options for the bargaining unit members to consider, and with a 2 out of 3 union vote, the attached was the calendar option selected and is being presented to the board for approval. Classified staff members will continue to work the first workday in June for their CalPERS full year service credit. The 21-22 academic calendar has school beginning on August 10 and ending on May 26 in 2022. It should be noted that the district will continue with 3 non-student professional development days that are funded using LCFF concentration funds. In the proposed calendar, 2 of those PD days will be placed immediately before school begins, and the other 3rd PD day will be in October and shall be a non-work day for all 10-month employees as well. Minimum days are scheduled for parent conferences and collaboration days, final exams, and recognition of certain holidays. Instructional minute requirements are being met at each school site, and additionally, late start Wednesdays for teacher collaboration will continue as identified on the calendar. And you'll see all the dates and such that are identified there. No financial implications, and I recommend that the Sierra Sands Unified School District Board of Education approve the 21-22 academic calendar as presented.
Move the recommended action.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments by board members? Any questions or comments by staff or community? If not, we will proceed with a vote. Dr. Houck?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Vice President Rockwell?
Aye.
Mr. Scott?
Aye.
Myself, aye. It is again unanimous. We move to construction administration. 10.1, report to the board of construction activities and issues. Mr. Coit, thank you.
President Ferris, members of the board, Superintendent Ostash, staff, and community, I'm pleased to give this update on the status of the district's construction activities. This report is presented for informational purposes only and no action is required. For the Burroughs PAC repairs, the earthquake-related repairs to the BHS PAC are on schedule with expected completion the week of March 8th. For our DOD project, we submitted the new Richmond School Grant application to the Office of Local Defense Community Cooperation, old DCC, today. And I realize that's about 3 weeks later than I reported we were going to do that last month. And I just thought I'd go into the reasons as we were ready to submit the grant. I kept looking at the numbers with the team, and we wanted to scrub the numbers again. And even though it was just a proposal, we wanted to be sure they were accurate and that they reflected the escalation that's occurring within the state right now with school construction. And realizing that federal folks will be looking at this, their escalation rates have not been as high as in California. So I think we've got a very realistic budget now, and we felt like we were ready to move forward and submit it. So that happened today. So what we're doing is we propose to deliver the project using 2 separate grants. We are first seeking approval of the design or planning grant. Once we receive the planning grant approval, we will continue to develop project plans, obtain agency approvals, obtain bids for custom modular buildings, select a modular builder, and award the modular building contract contingent upon receiving construction grant approval from the DoD. So we're ready to present this in a board workshop form, and also our documents are ready for your review whenever you'd like us to upload a copy. So I guess my teaser on this is our current timeline calls for a construction grant award from the DoD in February of 22, and the new Richmond school opening in August of 2023. That's our current timeline. We realize that a lot of things can go wrong between there, but that's our timeline, knowing how critical the facility space is needed in our district with losing Old Richmond to the earthquake. We've had some really vetted these dates and worked with our team, and they're confident we can meet this schedule. So that's the schedule we're moving ahead with at this time. And then for our Sierra Vista Center canopy repairs, the project is out for bid, and bid openings are scheduled for March 2nd. So is there any questions?
Any questions, comments from board members? I'd just like to comment that I really appreciate that action of re-looking at those numbers. Just a little bit earlier this evening, I was listening to a business discussion reflecting on the increased price of lumber, and they were referring to a 100% increase over last year. That, I mean, how can you work with an estimation of cost when the changes are that significant? So appreciate your diligence in that.
It's a little scary right now, and the one thing being that we're splitting the grant in 2 phases. Obviously, we want our estimates to be as accurate as possible as we're in our planning grant, but that allows us, being that we're going to have a firm price in place for our modular buildings before we go to the construction grant, that's our opportunity if we have to make any changes to do it there and, you know, go back one time and say, okay, we missed a number somewhere.
Yeah. Appreciate that. We've certainly had some experiences that weren't positive in the past, so appreciate the diligence with the understanding of what we've been through.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Any other questions or comments?
Just a clarification regarding the PAC. You said March 8th. Do you mean of 2021?
Yes.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Good catch there. That brings us to report to the board, private LTE project network. Mr. Morrison.
Good evening, President Ferris, members of the board, Superintendent Ostash, staff, and community. It's a pleasure to be here tonight and give everybody an update on our private LTE project. Even though we've got some pictures and some information to share tonight, there hasn't been a whole lot of physical work going on, but there's been a lot of work happening behind the scenes. So as you can see there, we've had project kickoff meeting. We have weekly meetings with the project team at Vector. We've had 2 site walks where we've done just kind of some logistics stuff, looking at pathways, looking at electrical requirements and things like that. And we've done a drone survey, which provided us with some pretty unique photos that I'd like to share. So this is a picture here of the district office tower. That's a 112-foot tower, and that's just a pretty unique view from up that high. Looking down, you can see the district offices down there below that.
We call that the Taj Mahal.
Yeah. This is a 3D rendering. This is just a picture the Vector has with their software where you can actually kind of fly around that whole tower. So a lot cooler with the software, but still kind of a neat view there from the district office tower. This is the 80-foot monopole tower at Las Flores Elementary. And the monopole is the same kind of pole that will be installed at Fowler, and we'll look at that in a minute. And I just really like that picture. Beautiful desert blue skies behind it, and that's the Las Flores Tower. This is Inyakern Elementary. This is a 120-foot tower, And so this is a view from, I don't know, I'm guessing maybe 130, 40 feet up in the air. You can see Unicurn Elementary down there in the background. Again, just kind of a unique view from that drone survey that we got. Again, a 3D rendering of the Unicurn Tower. And this is Fowler Elementary. So that picture on the left there, that is a view facing south. And I don't know if you can see it in the picture. There's a gentleman with a white shirt on, I think, back by the fence, is the proposed location. And then the picture there on the right, you've got that little yellow box at the bottom. So that's the southeast corner of the campus where we are proposing the site of the 60-foot monopole to be installed, and we'll be proposing that to DSA. Speaking of DSA, we are working through the process right now to determine what will be required to go to DSA for the 3 existing towers. That's the district office, Las Flores, and Unicurn Elementary. One of the challenges we're running into right now is that we've had a hard time finding any documentation on the district office tower, and Randy was actually very helpful and got us some documentation on the Unicurn Tower. But what that's doing is it's jeopardizing our timeline. And so what we're going to do is we're going to shift gears, and we're going to focus on Las Flores as being the first site that we bring up. I don't know if you recall, but when we brought this to the board in December, we talked about the district office being the first site that would come up. And so because of the DSA requirement concerns, we're going to bring up Las Flores because we have all that DSA documentation from when it was installed in 2007. So we feel like that's going to be our best bet to get the first connections up and going, and we're looking at around April timeframe for those first connections off of that tower to be brought up. I'm hopeful that at our next meeting, or not hopeful, I know for sure that at our next meeting I'll have more to present to you, hopefully some physical work going on and things like that. But for now, hopefully the pictures are just kind of a unique view of some of our stuff. That's really all I have for tonight, unless anybody has any questions.
Just a quick question. What's the difference in the tower height? Is it the terrain where they're being located? You're talking 60 foot, 90 foot, over 100 foot?
It's primarily what the requirement is for the coverage. So, for instance, at our 112-foot tower that we have now at the district office, that height was determined based on the places that it needed to reach. It's also why Unicurn's a little bit taller, trying to get over that hump and things like that. 60-foot tower for the private LTE antennas is sufficient, whereas the 80-foot tower that was installed at Las Flores, again, that was the height of that was determined to get over the trees and everything back over the district office with our old radio system that we have.
Direct line of sight, you need that direct line of sight.
Right, the direct line of sight for that, which we don't need for the LTE equipment.
Okay, just curious.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, one of you remotely were trying to ask a question. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was.
Go ahead, Mr. Johnson.
So Mr. Morrison, thank you first for putting this together for us. I truly appreciate it. The second thing was, are we one of the first districts in the state to do this with private LTE? So is it going to be difficult getting through DSA?
I know that there are some other districts. There is a different type of solution. It's a different band and different stuff. So some schools have done similar projects. As for whether or not we're the first LTE in the state, I doubt it, but I think we're probably pretty close for this particular type of solution. We've been talking a lot with Vector. We've been talking a lot with Randy. I know we've got some other avenues we can pursue with DSA. We're going to try to approach it from multiple fronts, have them come at it, and then we're going to come at it and see if we can get it through, as quickly as we can.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That brings us to 11.1, approval of enter into agreements with the Sports Facilities Group, Incorporated.
Good evening, President Ferris, members of the board, Superintendent Ostash, staff, and community. The Burroughs High School baseball program is in need of a new scoreboard. The current scoreboard is over 25 years old and no longer works accurately. Many of the bulbs have burned out, so you can't see the numbers, and the control box is broken. Because of the age of the equipment, it's no longer possible to purchase replacement parts for the system. The district received 3 quotes for a replacement scoreboard. Sports Facilities Group Incorporated was selected due to the fact that the district is familiar with their products and services. The proposal included a 5-year service and part warranty, and the company will provide training on the unit once it has been installed. Because the scoreboard will be taller than 8 feet, the project is a Division of State Architect DSA project. The district requested proposals from Ortiz Melby Architects, Amtech Inspection Services for the DSA required activities associated with the project. The cost for the scoreboard is as follows. The scoreboard and installation, $48,638.25. OMA gave us a not to exceed estimate of $7,200, and Amtech Inspection Services gave us a not to exceed estimate of $5,000 for a total of $60,838.25. The funding will be shared between the athletics department budget, the BHS boosters, and the baseball boosters. It is recommended that the board approve the agreement with SFG, OMA, and Amtech for the purchase and installation of the new BHS baseball scoreboard.
Move to the recommended action.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll move right to the vote. Dr. Houck?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Rockwell?
Aye.
Mr. Scott?
Aye.
Myself, aye. It makes it unanimous. Mrs. Smith, we go now to approval agreement with School Innovations and Achievement for the 2021-22 school year.
So a state mandate is a legal requirement established by statutory provision or regulation that requires school districts to undertake a specific activity or provide a specific service which satisfies minimum state standards. California's LEAs are required to perform all applicable state mandated activities. In the event of an audit, lawsuit, or injury related to these mandates, it will be critical to demonstrate adherence. School Innovations and Achievement, SIA, provides independent reviews, customized ed code training, process documentation protocol, and best practice recommendations. This helps districts demonstrate adherence and ensure compliance at a state and local level. The district currently contracts with SIA for 2 services, the Good Governance Program and SiteServe. The services provided under the Good Governance Program are a review and assessment of the district's compliance with the mandates, an annual report on the findings with recommendations for improvements, and assistance with reimbursement claims. Under the SiteServe agreement, they meet with representatives from each department and or site to review their processes for compliance with state mandates and provide recommendations for improvements. The annual cost for the services are $12,400. It is recommended that the board approve an agreement with SIA for state mandate support as presented.
Do I have a motion?
Move recommended action.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from board members? Any questions or comments from community or staff? We will move to the vote. Dr. Houck?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Rockwell?
Aye.
Mr. Scott?
Aye.
Myself, aye. It makes it unanimous. We will now temporarily adjourn the Sierra Sands Unified School District Board of Education meeting to conduct the Indian Kern Schools Financing Authority Board of Directors meeting. The only item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. If there are no changes, they will stand as presented, and we will move back into we will adjourn the meeting of the Indian Kern Schools Financing Authority and move back into the Sierra Sands Unified School District Board of Education meeting for the consent calendar.
Move entire consent calendar.
Second.
Moved in second in its entirety. Any questions or comments? Questions or comments from staff or community? Hearing none, we will move to the vote. Dr. Houck?
Aye.
Mr. Rockwell?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Scott?
Aye.
Myself, aye. It makes it unanimous. There are no future agenda items. Does anybody have any recommendations for future agenda items?
I had
Dr. Houck.
a thought. The WASC visit is going to happen before we meet again. They present out. They've got stuff. It might be nice to get a report on how they feel the visit went. There's stuff that could be shared in case we can't all be there on that Wednesday, and it also gives a chance to share it with the public.
So you're requesting it to be added to a
report?
future agenda report on this?
Yeah.
Would that be something, Dr.
Cer-
Ostash, you put
certainly.
under your report, or?
Well, certainly I can include it in my superintendent's report. Be very happy to do that, and also equally happy to, agendize it as a.
Were you thinking of a specific agenda item?
I was thinking of a specific
Okay.
agenda item, something that, a presentation. I know it's tough in these situations, but WASC happens once every 6 years. It's a big deal for a high school, and they put a lot of work into it, and to be able to share that, I think.
Sure.
I know it's one more thing for them to do, but it also can be a finish off, and I think it'd be good for us to
Meaningful,
hear and
certainly.
see. It's meaningful.
Any comments on that suggestion? Hearing none, I think we'll go ahead and ask that be added to a future agenda item.
Okay, no problem.
Any others? If not, we will move to adjournment. Thank you for coming. The next meeting of our board is what date?
Hold on, I've got that here. March 18th.
It will be March 18th. It's March 11th.
I meant March 11th.
Sorry, I lied to you.
Thank you.